My daughter asked me to make her a desk for her birthday. So I went online and got some rough sawn cherry slabs. They're nicely aged, about 3 years. So let me take you along on making this inlaid, French polished cherry wood desk. First up, I ripped all the boards on the bandsaw. Made a bit of a mess, but man, it was nice and quick. But I ended up with 6 really nice boards. I only need 5 for the tabletop. Alright, next up, I need to do a whole shit ton of jointing and thicknessing. Okay, well that's my 5 best boards. Now I just need to work out what arrangement will look nicest. So there's a bit of sapwood on the edge of some of them that's lighter, so I guess I'll put those together. Okay, I think that's going to be the arrangement. As you can see, the jointing's not perfect. Right, now I'm just going through with my hand plane, trying to improve these joints. Just taking very fine cuts here. Just need to repeat that on all the other joints. So I'm now ready for the glue up. I borrowed some nice big clamps from a mate of mine. Thanks, Christian. Well, I'm certainly glad to get these long clamps out of the way. In a small workshop, it's really a pain to work around them. Just take the glue off the back. Mail time. A very generous viewer of my channel, Robert, decided when he saw me using this kind of crappy tap wrench, he decided that wasn't on. Oh wow, thanks a lot, Robert. That is really nice. The only other Starite tool I've got is this lovely old 1 to 2 micrometer my dad gave me. But wait, there's more. Oh wow, that's very helpful. Check that out. All the different sizes of taps and the drills that are associated with them. Thanks very much, Robert. Here's a good spot on my toolbox for your sticker. Thanks for your generosity, that's brilliant. I'd like to do an inlay next. So what I've done is glued up some dark wood. I think this is Kwila from Papua New Guinea. My dad brought that home from a business trip in PNG 30 years ago. And this is some of that wood that I used for my table. I think it's eucalyptus. I ripped some of the eucalyptus and made a nice thin piece for it to go either side. And that's kind of the look of the inlay I'm trying to get. Speaking of veneers, have you ever wondered why the business jets you fly on have fine, real wood veneer panelling, while the airliners never have real wood, but just like ugly laminate sidewalls? It's not just the price, but also the added crashworthiness requirements which prevent the use of real wood veneers above 19 passengers. Back in the 1960s through to the 80s, many passengers perished due to heat or smoke inhalation after otherwise survivable crashes. One assumption in aircraft certification is that a post-crash fire will break out on one side. Now let's start the glue up. Modern large aircraft design requires materials to prevent flashover of an exterior fire or the generation of toxic smoke for 90 seconds after the plane crash lands. Everything is set up to protect those 90 seconds for evacuation. The Air France Flight 358 runway overrun in Toronto is the proof that these measures are important. The plane overran into a ravine, fire broke out. Not all of the slides worked, but the flight attendants managed to get everybody out within the 90 seconds. Okay, so those have now dried overnight, and I just gave them a quick lick with a hand plane to clean them up. So now the next thing to do is to rip them into strips with the bandsaw. I've just made up a temporary fence, and I'll try and rip them to 4mm. Thin veneers made out of real wood generally can't meet the heat release requirement, as the heat source on the back side causes a rapid combustion flashover and great heat release. I believe there are some ways to mitigate this with chemical impregnation or coatings, but of course any coating you put on has to be tested for the density and toxicity of any smoke which it gives off, so it's definitely not an easy or trivial thing to certify. There are two reasons why I wanted to learn to do an inlay. One is I just wanted to learn how to do an inlay. But the other one is this knot here near the front. It's the worst blemish on the top of the table, so I figured if I put a strip of inlay along the front, I can hide it. So I've made the inlay just slightly under 20mm. I'll route it in 2 goes just to make sure I get close to that dimension. So my inlays are about 4.5mm thick. I want to set them about 3mm deep into the wood. Why set about 3mm when we can set exactly 3mm? Well, that shows that I need to go from left to right to do a conventional cut, because going from right to left, it wants to deviate out this way. Right, not wanting to be impatient, but, well, it's been 3 hours, so I'm pretty sure that glue's dried enough. That's stained things a bit. I hope it doesn't go more than 1 millimeter down into this wood, because then I won't be able to get it out. That's pretty cool. Right, next I've got a whole bunch of finish sanding to do. I'll get the sanding basically complete before I cut off those ends. Right, well, now that I've sanded up through the sandpaper grades, and the next thing I need to do is cut the ends off. The next step, my daughter doesn't like the colour of this wood. She wants something redder and darker. Cherry will darken as it ages, but my daughter wants it stained. Because there's quite a lot of figured grain here, it's going to get really splotchy if I just put the stain straight on. After watching quite a few videos on this, I found one with a recipe from the Wood Whisperer for a size to partially seal the grain and therefore reduce the amount of splotchiness. The Wood Whisperer made a litre, but I'm just going to make a 1/3 batch. So it's 1 spoonful of PVA glue. Next I need 1 spoonful of water-based finish. This is actually a gap filler, but I didn't stir it. I just took this varnish off the top. And then added water up to 1/3 of a litre. Now the Wood Whisperer calls this stuff mark juice, which I guess is kind of fitting. Anyway, he says just paint it on, let it dry. So that's what I'll do. Because I knew I was going to stain this, any blemishes on the bottom already got mahogany coloured filler in it. Figured might as well go straight to the final colour there. I can see why it needs another sanding after this. It really raises the grain quite a lot. I kind of like that colour, but oh well, the customer's always right. Well, that made it feel like all of the sanding was for nothing. Let's take off the raised fibres. There goes nothing. What's it going to be? Nasty blotchy mess or nice even colour? I'll do the back first. Try not to get any drips down the side, and if it sucks, change plan. Well, like this, it's not actually an unconvincing mahogany colour. When I first used the belt sander, there are a couple of spots where I obviously got a corner dug in and didn't sand them out with the orbital sander, so they've left scars. I hope the top doesn't have too much of that sort of scarring. In terms of colour, I'm quite happy with the sealant. You can see this piece of sapwood's got a lot darker than the rest, but it does have very inconsistent grain, this timber, so I was expecting some level of blotchiness. Yeah, the sapwood's definitely picked up more stain than the rest. So this is the mahogany coloured stain which I used. Sort of a pre-made liquid. Well, she wanted dark and she wanted kind of red coloured, so I'm going to call this mission accomplished. Yeah, the heartwood is definitely a bit blotchier than I would have liked, but that's the nature of that beast. I'd leave that to dry and then I can start with the final finishing. So with that stain dry, it's time to start sealing the surface. Just rubbing on some shellac. Right, next up it's time to start the French polishing. So this rag's already soaked in shellac. Throw in some makeup remover pads, which of course stick to everything. Get those drenched. Try and make a nice tight pad. Need a bit of oil. Extra virgin olive oil, because it tastes better. So this is now the labour intensive part. The oil just keeps the pad gliding across the surface and stops it from sticking, while the shellac gets pressed into all the pores, slowly sealing it up. Whenever you feel the cloth starting to drag, a little more oil. I rechecked the video and not supposed to use olive oil, so I switched over to just a normal mineral oil. Already you can see how it's starting to bring out a bit of that bird's eye grain down in this area. Really quite quickly starts bringing out the luster and the depth of the wood. Well, it's coming along nicely. French polishing is not a process you can really hurry up too much. It just takes time. Bit more oil on the pad. Plenty of pressure. plenty of rubbing. So this is a process I'm just going to have to keep chipping away at over the next few days. So I bought a set of legs off Amazon. Let's see what these look like. To fasten the legs, I've decided to use these 6mm threaded inserts, so then it's easy to remove and install them. You know, my daughter's still young, she's probably going to move apartments a few times, so I figure it's easy to make the legs removable. While they have little screwdriver drive flats, I don't think they work that well, so I'll drive them with an Allen wrench. So, after all that, how did it turn out? You know, I'm pretty happy with it. But it's not about me. The question is, will my daughter like it? Happy birthday to you. And yeah, she liked it. I think she likes it a lot. Thanks for watching.